not the link. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me. Please can I have confirmation that the live stream has started? Thank you. In addition to the Cabinet members and other councillors present in the room, we have some councillors and Cabinet members joining our meeting remotely. We decided this morning that we would minimise the number of Cabinet members attending personally, but they are available remotely. It's not a reflection of their not wanting to be here, but it represents risk mitigation with COVID and the increasing numbers we have in the county. I now check that everybody can hear and be heard. Amongst Cabinet support members, we have Councillor Jenny Bartlett.
Good afternoon, Leader. I can see and hear you.
Jenny, Councillor John Hardwick.
Good afternoon, Leader. Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you, Kath Hay. Present, Councillor Alan Selden. Not present. We have apologies from Councillor Peter Jimman and Councillor Watson. Going on to Cabinet members, I think you have Councillor Harvey.
Yes, Leader, I can see and hear you.
Thank you. Amongst group leaders, we have Councillor Terry James. Not here at the moment. Councillor Jonathan Lester.
Yes, I can see and hear you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bob Matthews.
Yes, good afternoon, Leader. I can see and hear you.
Thank you. Councillor Tony Fagin, I know maybe a little late.
I am here, Leader. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fagin. Councillor William Wilding.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I can hear and see. Thank you.
Thank you. And then the scrutiny chairs who may or may not be attending. That's Councillor Philip Howells. Not attending, and Councillor Lisa Swinglehurst.
Good afternoon, Leader. I can see and hear you. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know whether anybody else wants to volunteer their presence. No, thank you very much. We have a number of officers attending who will be introduced as they're called upon. Thank you, and I will now formally open the meeting. The agenda, papers and other relevant information for this meeting are available for public viewing on the Herefordshire Council website. The Council is streaming this meeting live on the Herefordshire Council YouTube channel and making a recording. To ensure that recording quality is maintained, please speak as clearly as possible and keep background noise to a minimum. Microphones should be muted when you're not speaking, and please ensure that mobile phones and other devices are turned to silent. Others are permitted to film or photograph and record our public meetings, provided that it does not disrupt the business of the meeting. As we move through the agenda, in addition to discussion by Cabinet members, I will invite group leaders or their representatives in turn to provide views and questions from their group on each item. Where appropriate, I will also call on scrutiny chairpersons to comment on behalf of their committee. Voting will be undertaken by a show of hands for those in the room, and only Cabinet members may vote. First item is apologies for absence. We have had a number, specifically Councillor Diana Toynbee. Are there any other, Councillor Toynbee and Councillor Jimman, Councillor Watson? Are there any other apologies?
Councillor Ange Tyler.
Thank you.
I've been notified that there I don't think all Cabinet members are present, but their apologies will be noted.
Thank you very much. Item 2, declaration of interest. Are there any Schedule 1, Schedule 2 or other interest for items on the agenda today? I see none. Thank you very much. So I'll see on then to item 3, to receive any members from questions from members of the public. We have not received any questions, so I'll move on to item 4. We have one question from a councillor, from Councillor Nigel Shaw. I'm told that Councillor Shaw has provided a written supplementary. If you'd like to display that, that would be very helpful. Thank you very much. And if the clerk could read the question too, thank you.
Thank you, Leader. The question from Councillor Nigel Shaw is, I thank the Cabinet member for his assurance and look forward to the written reply by highways officers. If they could detail how much this administration has spent on such replacement of cat's eyes, studs, since May 2009, excluding resurfacing installations, that would also be additionally reassuring.
Okay, I thank Councillor Shaw for that question. I'm sure we'll do that. And I'll ask Councillor Shaw a question, if he doesn't mind. Anything that we do struggle to do is not as a result of a lack of will, it's primarily a lack of funding. I'd very much appreciate if you wrote to his MP and asked for return. Some of the return of revenue grant that we've lost over the last 10 years, subsequently about 60-something million a year, which impacts us enormously. But I shall do that for Nigel and make sure I get that response.
Thank you. So I don't know whether Councillor Harrington, you want to put that question to Councillor Shaw in an email. I'm not sure he's listening.
Well, I'll provide him the answer and we can have that chat privately. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So we'll come on to the substantive items. Item 5 is submission of minerals and waste local plan. As can be seen from the papers, this has had quite a long journey already, and it's still got further to go. So we kind of moving it on. This has been discussed once before by Cabinet with some interesting debate discussions, which are reflected in the paper that's before the committee now. And without saying any more, before I steal Councillor Harvey's introduction, I'll pass over to her as the Cabinet Member for Finance, Corporate Services and Planning.
Thank you, Leader. First of all, I'd like to thank our officers, in particular Victoria Eaton, who's with us today, for all of the hard work that's gone into producing these policies, and also the team at Hendecker who've been supporting our officers through the process. It's a mammoth task, and I'm sure colleagues you'll remember the large and detailed document that we discussed previously. This time we're here to consider the schedule of modifications to that document following further consultation. And we're also here to consider referring this plan in its modified form to Council and recommending to Council its approval for sending on to external examination. Further, we're asked to consider delegating powers to officers to attend that external examination and agree any further modifications that may be considered necessary with the inspector who undertakes the examination. And the modifications are included in the appendix to the main report. And the second appendix is the equality impact assessment that's been undertaken for submission alongside the minerals and waste policies for the local plan. I'd like to draw members' attention specifically to the modifications that are listed that relate to our rivers and their catchments, and to the way in which we want to use these policies to address pollution in our river systems and to, at the same time, enable development to take place and for economic growth to continue. And there are a number of modifications that relate to that, which you will find in the appendix and also in the glossary, particularly the one relating to nutrient neutrality. So with that, I'd like to hand over to Victoria for any further words that she'd like to add, or anything that she'd like particularly to draw our attention to at this stage. Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you very much, Councillor Harvey. Just to clarify what will be submitted to the Secretary of State, it will actually be the same version of the plan that went round its last round of consultation. And then as an appendix to that, we will have this schedule of modifications that we're going to be considered at examination by the inspector. So that's the way things are done, and that's quite a normal process in a plan of this kind. So I'm just wanted to add also that since we last met and since the publication of the papers that go along with this cabinet report, there's been some minor changes to the schedule of modifications following completion of some further evidence-based documents on historic impact assessments. That's resulted into some very minor changes of wording that go into the key development criteria. And also, since we've had some discussions with our ecology officer, we've altered some terminology to do with habitat regulations legislation and network sites that are the new terminology used for areas in combination such as special protection areas, SACs and Ramsar sites. So just a few minor corrections and updates to add to those modifications, and that list of modifications as updated will be submitted with the full council papers. So that's it really. If there are any questions, I'm quite happy to help take those.
Okay, so any questions, observations? Councillor Chowns.
Thanks, thanks, Victoria, for all of the work on this. You'll recall from previous multiple conversations that we've had and meetings that we've had about this, that it's been a real concern to this administration to try to ensure, as Councillor Harvey said, that the Minerals Waste Local Plan is as helpful as possible in ensuring nutrient neutrality or ideally betterment. I understand, I note that the word betterment has been removed from it, and that clarification was being sought from legal as to whether, you know, it is possible to use the word betterment in there, i.e. to use this policy to help improve the nutrient status of our watercourses. Can you just kind of provide a summary of why it is legally, what the legal advice has been and why it's legally not possible to do that?
Yes, thank you. The legal advice was sought and has been received. We've also had some further discussions with the council's ecology officer and also with the consultants Hendecker on this matter. So we took the word betterment out initially because following some discussions with Natural England and the representations that we received during the last round of consultation, there was some uncertainty and perhaps some difficulty in understanding exactly what betterment meant. So for clarification purposes, we took it out. And then obviously we've had some advice on whether or not we can actually ask for more than at least nutrient neutrality in our policies. The legal advice says that it would be best not to ask for more than nutrient neutrality in this instance. And this is something that's also happened elsewhere in the country, where there have been similar issues of nutrients in river courses that are special areas of conservation, such as in Havant down there by Southampton. The procedure that's been taken there as well is that they're just asking for nutrient neutrality, at least nutrient neutrality. Now, there has to be an element of certainty in that, and therefore it's quite likely that when a planning application comes forward, it will also include a buffer. It won't just be nutrient neutral, but to ensure that there's certainty on nutrient neutrality, it will include a buffer. That's quite likely. So in effect, it's probably likely that some form of betterment will be achieved in those. But the approach really is similar to what we have in Section 106 agreements to normal planning applications. That is that applicants are really only liable to mitigate the impacts of their own developments rather than to improve the situation say on the river. That's something that's happened previously with previous developments. So there are also potential consequences in the Minerals and Waste Local Plan's delivery of policy if we're going to be asking for more than nutrient neutrality. And also we have to look at it in the context of the fact that developments, planning applications are likely to be accompanied by an appropriate assessment, which will consider the likely significant effects of the development, and along with that, the measures that may be implemented to address the risks. So I think all in all, we should carry along on this approach of just requiring at least nutrient neutrality in the minerals and waste local plan. And then obviously we have the core strategy, which is the level above the minerals and waste local plan, which the policies on there will also be relevant to the minerals plan. And those may be changed in future in relation to nutrient levels and how we deal with those. And obviously if any changes happen at that level, then we will be reviewing the plan, the minerals and waste plan. It's under a 5-year review anyway, and we'll also be monitoring it as it goes forward.
Victoria, do you have any view as to what the inspector will say? Do you think things have moved a bit in this area so that we might get a more positive reaction from him or her?
It's possible. It's an issue which is now affecting more and more parts of the country, and I know that Natural England are at the forefront of trying to address these issues as well with the government. So there might be some changes further along the line, but I think at this stage it's something that we will have to deal with at examination and see how it goes at that point. But I think it's appropriate to follow the procedure that we're doing at the moment, which is seeking at least nutrient neutrality for future development proposals on minerals and waste matters.
Will there be a possibility to make further representations to the inspector from an officer or a cabinet inspector?
If the inspector recommends further main modifications to the plan, those do have to be consulted upon a public round of consultation, that is. So if they do relate to issues of nutrient neutrality and betterment, then there will be a chance then to make further representations. And then, of course, the plan will have to be adopted again by full council at the end of the process. So there'll be another option there, but it really will only be whether to adopt the plan or not at that stage.
Very much. Councillor Norman.
Thank you. My question is about the impact on heritage assets. And I see in the report that Historic England and also the National Trust are concerned in particular about the Lentil quarry. And I also note that that a heritage impact assessment is being carried out on all the sites, not just at Lentil Earls, but the ones mentioned here. I think they were Wellington, Appleyard and Shopton as well. And I see that was taking place between July and September. I'm not quite out of September, but I wondered whether we are, we have information that we'll be able to feed back in at this point, or whether we're still waiting for that.
I can confirm that the heritage impact assessments have now been completed literally just in the last few days, although we did actually receive the Lentil heritage impact assessment earlier on in September. So the comments that have been made in those have been fully taken into consideration, and the schedule of modifications will be changed very slightly in terms of the key development criteria to take into account the comments in those documents. However, nothing major has changed. We are still of the opinion that for all the sites where heritage impact assessments have been done, including Lentil, the allocations that are proposed should be deliverable and and there's been appropriate assessment of the heritage on heritage sites, especially with the view from Croft Ambury on the over the Lentil Earls allocation. So those are considered to have been taken fully into account, and we're going to continue with the allocations as proposed.
Thank you.
Councillor Harrington.
Yes, thanks, Victoria, for your hard work on this. There's one question on minor modification 7F, which is any development proposal located within the catchment of River Wye, Sack, can bring a risk of increased phosphates, etc. It is likely that an appropriate assessment will be required to consider the likely significant effect of that project. I'm not quite sure entirely what that means. Does that actually give any weight to planning officers to be able to refer to that, or it seems a bit vague to me, a bit non-committal?
Actually, an appropriate assessment is part of the habitat regulations assessment that would have to be done, and that's a statutory set out process as to whether there are likely to be, it's screened, first of all an application is screened to see whether there'll be any likely significant effects on a protected area, and then if there are, then that has to go through an appropriate assessment process. So that's a statutory led process. So it's something that is almost certainly going to have to be done where planning applications for minerals and waste proposals might have effects on the SAC.
Okay, so this is just a sort of standard insert then, essentially, saying that this is the process.
Yes.
Okay.
Right, thank you very much. I'll hand now to leaders of parties. I'll start off with Councillor Lester. I think it's been to the Scrutiny Committee, hasn't it? Councillor Lester, the General Scrutiny Committee. Whether you're able to comment on the two at the same time.
Yes, I will. Thank you. Yes, Scrutiny have been all over this, spent hours and hours and hours, and I would like to thank the Scrutiny Committee for their attention to detail, to say the least. They really went at this because they realised it was a very important document, not for just the planning side of things, but for the well-being of Herefordshire, development of all kinds of things that affect Herefordshire's environment. So, and I can recall there were long meetings, and we made many recommendations and suggestions to the wording of the document, and had it out with the issue of digesters and fracking and all kinds of issues. So thank you to the committee for that. It is as it is, and I think it should go to be ratified and then go to the inspector as soon as possible so that we can get the document up and running. The problem with these documents is they take an inordinate amount of time, energy and effort to create, and thank you to the officers for their forbearance. But I think the scrutiny process is at the stage where we've done our bit for now, and we will be waiting to see what the outcome is of the process from here on in. And from the Conservatives group's point of view, yeah, get the document in, get it agreed, and let's get it off to the inspector as soon as possible so we know what we're working with. And I just hope in future that plan processes can be somewhat speeded up, because it takes a huge amount of council resource, and I don't think the matter should be rushed at all. That's not what we're asking for, but I hope that in future processes can be streamlined, and I think that will be beneficial to all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lester, for that support. Councillor Matthews.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. First of all, which has already been said, I would like to thank Victoria Eaton and everyone else who's been involved in what is a very complex issue, but a very important issue. It's a very clear and comprehensive report, and it has our full support. Looking at the modifications, I think that covers all the issues that we were originally concerned with. And as Councillor Lester said, it will be good to get this report up and running and active. And as I said, it has our full support, and we hope that it goes through without any more further delay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fagan.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Just to say that this issue of betterment and nutrient neutrality is one of ongoing concern. 5 years is a long time in the deterioration of a river system, and it's a shame that we're being advised that we can't actually put the utmost protections on the Y, and that we have to take the lead from Natural England. But obviously there's a process, and so let's just hope that our plan will be robust enough to protect Herefordshire's environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fagan. Councillor Wilding.
Thank you, Chair. The independents for Herefordshire feel that all councillors have had a chance to comment and look at this. It's obviously been through scrutiny as well. I'm a member of scrutiny, so I'm aware how much we looked at it. I won't be adding much now. However, I do think that all of the Independent for Herefordshire members are concerned about the levels of nutrient in our rivers, and we hope that that phrase, seeking nutrient neutrality or better, will in practice mean that we're always trying to do the very best for the health of our rivers. Thanks.
Good, thank you very much. I don't think there's any need for any further debate. Let's move on with this. If that's okay with Councillor Harvey, unless you want to sum up at all.
No, I'm very happy with where we've got to, and looking forward to taking it to council and on to examination. This has been a very long journey.
Okay, so the recommendation to cabinet members is first the draft MWLP development plan document and the schedule of suggested main modifications and minor changes be recommended for approval by council. For submission to the Secretary of State for examination in public. Second, to agree that the planning inspector be invited to recommend any main modifications necessary in order to find it legally compliant and sound. And third, delegated authority be given to the Assistant Director for Regulatory, Environment and Waste, and to the Lead Development Manager to agree with the planning inspector any additional modifications to the MWLP, if it is appropriate and necessary to do so, in order to facilitate efficient progress of the plan through the examination process. Subsequently, such modifications will be subject to public consultation. All those in favour? Thank you very much, unanimous. Moving on then to item 7, Leominster Heritage Action Zone. This is to approve expenditure and deliver activities as detailed in the Leominster Heritage Action Zone Delivery Plan. This item begins on page 61 of the agenda now. If I can ask Councillor Kelly Chowns, Cabinet Member Economy and Environment, to introduce this topic.
Thank you, Leader. And I believe we're going to be joined by Roger Allenby on the other side in the meeting.
I am here, Councillor Chowns.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Roger. Okay, so I'll briefly introduce this and then hand over to Roger for any additional detail. So the Leominster Heritage Action Zone is a very exciting project, totaling £3.6 million. So that's 1.8 from Historic England and 1.8 million match funding from Herefordshire Council. We took an initial decision about this last year, colleagues might remember, and then this is the second one to kind of move on in implementation. It's got kind of 3 kind of main elements. So there's a buildings restoration grant scheme to kind of really help bring historic buildings back up to as good a standard as possible. That will really kind of help to lift Leominster. There's some public realm improvements in the conservation area, and then there's some work to kind of support information and engagement and so forth. So the project was originally due to start in April 2020, but as we know, quite a lot was going on at that point, and there have been some unfortunate delays to implementation of this project. They're detailed in the paper here. I'm really glad that implementation is now cracking on at quite a pace, which is fantastic. And colleagues might have seen there was an article in the Hereford Times today, I think, just talking about implementation of this project. One of the key things is to encourage owners of buildings, historic buildings in Leominster, to come forward and really take advantage of the grant scheme that is available. So I'm going to hand over to Roger in just a second in case you'd like to add anything, Roger. But before I do, I just want to really pay tribute to the work of Leominster Town Council and other kind of stakeholders in Leominster. You know, this is a really fantastic example of a project that has been so driven by the local community, really putting all of the legwork to put together a very high quality application to Historic England originally. We've got 1.8 million out of them. That's kind of more than the average award that was made by Historic England. And also Leominster Town Council have really gone above and beyond in recent months in trying to do their very best to help keep this project on track and moving forward when there have been various challenges. So I'd really like to pay tribute to them and thank them. Roger, do you want to add anything?
Only just very quickly, thank you, Councillor Jones, for very good introduction, and just to reiterate the importance of all the market towns, really in terms of their support to the economy, and this is a really good project that will help us improve the offer and the development of Leominster. Really, the decisions. So we had a decision last year which essentially accepted the grant funding. And this is a decision that then allows us to spend that funding and the council's match. So that would enable us to spend the money as grant applications now come forward. So we've launched the grant scheme. People are developing their applications. There's an appraisal that's just concluding at the moment that's identified 50 buildings that would be able to come forward to seek the grant funding in Leominster. But this would allow us to approve money to those grants as they come forward for approval. And then the second part is to enable us to commission the design of the public realm works, which would include the public consultation phase. So that it would kick off the public realm element, the council match funding public realm element, to look at what we would develop in the town and include the consultation with it, finalise those designs so that we can then implement those schemes thereafter. So the focus of the decision today, please, would be to approve the expenditure of the project. There have been some delays, not least COVID, and that grant schemes. People were obviously a bit hesitant to look at investing significantly in property. They've got to make a contribution to the grant scheme at either 20% contribution if it's for a heritage building, or 40% if it's for a shopfront improvement. So obviously that's put property owners off over the last 12 months or so, but there is a lot of current interest now in that grant scheme, and there were a few national delays to the schemes being launched. As set out in the paper, there is a risk that if we don't now get on and deliver the projects quickly in this financial year, that we might lose some grant funding. So we want to kind of get the next phase of this really kind of implemented now as quickly as we can. But happy to answer any questions.
Right. Councillor Norman.
Thank you very much.
Particularly interested.
Particular interest, yes, speaking as a Leominster resident and councillor. So first of all, I'm really glad we all are that this is finally up and running and on its way. There's been a lot of concern in Leominster, as you can imagine, about the delays, so we're really pleased that things are on the move. I think too, as Roger says, this will give confidence to people coming forward and taking up these opportunities, which I think there was a bit of uncertainty about earlier. And just really to thank Ellie for her comments about the Town Council and to agree with them. I think they put a fantastic amount of work into this. They really have, our officers in particular, but also some of our council members. It's been a real partnership, and I think they deserve that the credit that's been given to them. So hopefully the partnership will take it forward, and we're really pleased it's on its way. And I absolutely hope there's not going to be any money that isn't taken up and used. So we'll be doing everything we can to push that. Thank you.
Just thinking.
Yeah, that's about. So Roger, we're pretty good at getting these grants, but then less good at spending them. How assured can we be that this money will be spent? Have you got additional resources or anything like that to help with this? Did you not hear me?
Sorry, I was on mute. Apologies. We've got an assigned project manager, full-time project manager, that's working on the project as part of our project management office currently. We have also then through the delivery of or starting to deliver the project in preparation for it, we've brought in additional conservation expertise to help grant applicants to develop their project. And Historic England are paying themselves specifically for a study identifying those buildings which could come forward, which would be eligible as part of the grant scheme. So we are kind of running at pace now in looking at identifying and appraising and assessing and providing support to the applicants, and then being able to kind of to progress now, subject to this decision, the public realm elements that obviously be the design works, which we would conclude over the coming months, would then give us be in a position for next financial year to start to look to implement some of those changes. So we have got additional expertise, both external technical and dedicated support in the council to lead the implementation of the project. There was unfortunate, we did appoint a project manager in January who went off on long-term sick leave, and that did create a little bit more of a hiatus, but that's been rectified now.
That's excellent. Okay, I'll go around the council.
I think Councillor Harvey's got a hand up.
Sorry, Councillor Harvey.
Yes, Leader, I guess with my finance hat on, I'd just like to welcome this as a project and to say that I think it's good for us to be getting in grant funding, and very happy to be putting the match funding to this. Leominster is a delightful town to visit and to wander around. It's got some really impressive regal buildings, but its town centre is in need of this funding to spruce it up a bit. And I really do hope that property owners and local businesses seize this opportunity to work in a coordinated way to really sort of give the town centre a bit of a boost and an uplift. It's really a deserving project. And I hope that if there are any public realm works, which it would be wise for us to consider coordinating with the delivery of this from a timing point of view, that we also have a look at that and see if we can make sure that, we're doing public realm activity in the town centre in a way which works with and complements this as an important investment project in, a lovely heritage town centre.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. I'll now move on to the group leaders, starting again, if I may, with Councillor Lester.
Yes, thank you. Really good news for Leominster, and Leominster is like one of all of our market towns. It's a real jewel in the crown for Herefordshire, and so to improve Leominster's environment in the centre is very welcome indeed. It's good to see a good example, if you will, of where Herefordshire Council can work very well with town councils to achieve a collective goal which will benefit residents and benefit tourism and benefit Herefordshire as a whole. So that's really, really good. So we welcome this wholeheartedly, but we also are very, very appreciative of the government for providing this funding and this initiative. So top marks to the Conservative government for making this funding available, and for the lottery grant to be making the contributions as well. So I'll be buying a lottery ticket this afternoon to do my bit as well. So thank you very much for that. And yeah, we wait to see the improvements for Leominster, and good for Leominster. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Councillor Lester. Yeah, I'll just move straight on to Councillor Matthews.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, as a Councillor Harvey said, it's a very pleasant and delightful place to stroll around. I worked there on and off for a number of years, so I know it very well. I still frequent the place, not weekly, but several times a month. And as she said, I find it very pleasant and warming and very welcoming. So my colleagues and I warmly support this scheme, and I hope that it will go some way into attracting more tourists into this county, and that we can carry out further improvements elsewhere around the county as well.
Yeah, I think we say amen to that to encourage the other county towns in the way that Leominster is moving. Councillor Fagan.
Yes, Leader, the Greens are hugely supportive of this project, and we really look forward to it kicking off and the improvements that will be made in the regeneration of Leominster, and the community and social benefits that will come from this town project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fagan. Councillor Wilding.
Thanks, Leader. Yeah, the Independents for Herefordshire are obviously very supportive of this. We're all very proud of the heritage and history throughout Herefordshire. So we obviously support this project, and we hope that other market towns can learn from this project. I know that, for instance, in Ross-on-Wye, a group that I'm involved with, Create Ross, will be interested in learning about how Leominster developed this project, but it's brilliant and well done. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Well, as with the previous item, I think we should move on as quickly as we possibly can and get on with this. So I will put the recommendation, if I may, to Cabinet members, which is as follows. Recommendation A, that the Director for Economy and Place, following consultation with Section 151 officer, Cabinet Member for Environment and Economy, and Cabinet Member for Infrastructure and Transport, be authorised to approve expenditure required to deliver the public realm projects, which will be procured in line with the Council's contracts procedures rules. Secondly, the Director for Economy and Place, following consultation with the same officer, in consultation also with the Cabinet Member for Environment and Economy and Cabinet Member for Infrastructure and Transport, be authorised to take all operational decisions necessary to deliver the balance of the programme, including grant schemes and information and engagement projects within the total project budget of 3.6 million. And thirdly, the Section 151 officer be authorised to reduce the grant element of the overall budget to up to £1.8 million from the 2 million originally estimated and approved at council, so that the overall capital programme budget for this project is 3.6 million. We hope that will not come, that will not be necessary. But if I put that to the vote, all those in favour? Unanimously passed. Thank you very much indeed. I will then close the meeting. We meet again next week. I'm sorry that the extra meetings put in the diary. I think with Zoom it is made very much easier. And that's one of the reasons why we've had limited Cabinet members here today. So thank you very much for anybody who's been listening in. I will ask for the live stream to be stopped.